Hey everybody, how are you? Welcome to Zone Sports Academy. Duke Baxter, Steve Nicorak. We have some really good topics for you today. We're going to recap some of the questions that we had during our coaches clinic. On Saturday, we had an in-person coaches clinic. We had 107 coaches. It was awesome, from T-ball all the way up to advanced coaches. We broke them up into stations. We had a hitting, we had a fielding, we had a throwing, and we also had some catching stations, which we'll talk about. But we got some really cool topics for you. Coach Steve, what are you thinking about today? What are you thinking?
No, I'm looking forward to it. I see we already got some questions in there on the ticker. We're excited to get to them. And like Duke said, we just finished our big coaches clinic, and we had a blast. We had the moms and dads in here in jeans. They had their gloves on, and we had them moving around, doing dynamic warm-ups, doing the drills, because we talk all the time about the importance of coaches being able to demonstrate properly. So teaching those coaches how to demonstrate the drills properly, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun, and no pulled hammies this year.
No pulled hammies. It was really interesting as we looked around at the 107 coaches, and we were talking to them. We asked the coaches how many of them actually played the game of baseball and actually touched and threw a baseball, not middle school or high school, just actually touched a baseball before. And there were 10 coaches that had never touched a ball. And we weren't surprised, because last year we had pretty much the same numbers, but it just goes to show that coaches out there, especially first-time coaches, they get asked to coach and they say yes, and they really don't have the resources and they don't have the experience to do it. So I think the coaches clinic was a lot of fun. Those coaches were fielding ground balls for the first time, understanding what a four-seam grip was. They were hitting in the batting cage with Coach Steve. So I think to all you coaches out there, it's even if you have no experience, you can learn, you can coach, and this is just a great resource for you.
Yeah, that was the exciting part that I saw. Those guys were taking notes. They had their video out. They were videotaping every drill we did, and they were really trying to learn and do their best to understand the game and take whatever we were doing at the clinic and take it with them for their practices. And the big emphasis we had was running an efficient practice, how to keep the kids moving, how to have fun with them, how to keep practice and games from getting boring, and really just keep the kids playing the game. We say it all the time, and we touched on it at the coaches clinic as well. But a true test to a coach's success is how many kids sign up to play the next season. And that was, one thing that we started off with, and then we finished with it. And it was really keeping those 12 or 13 players on your roster signed up for next year and keep them playing the game.
So like we do every week, 11 o'clock, we like to ask you, where are you watching from? What state, what country, what age team do you coach? And also, what level coach are you? Because when you're asking the questions, it helps us answer those, as well as make sure that you click on the link and you download your free practice plan, because then you'll be able to get a bunch of emails from us. You'll see what our blogs are all about. Every week we're blogging about a new topic from questions that you coaches are asking us, and we're really excited to get those questions so that we can help you and we can help as many coaches as we possibly can. We had some really cool questions, which we're getting asked a lot of the same questions over and over again about pitchers. How do we get our pitchers ready for the season? How do we incorporate pitching into our practice plan? What do we do when a hitter gets hit by the ball for the first time and all of a sudden he's shying away, now he's not swinging? Those are really good questions. Other questions are, what do we do when we have a player that throws really hard, but once he gets in the game, he really slows down because he's afraid to hit the batter? So these are probably a bunch of the questions that you're thinking in your head. Just jot them down. Jot them down. If we answer your question and you like our answer, or if you're just watching and you like it, give us a thumbs up. Add some hearts in there. We see those going on there, and we just get juiced up and energized. So let's go to the first question that we had on the list, and that is, what are some good catcher drills? Coach Trenton, what age are you talking about? Because when you're talking about some of the younger kids, it's really a lot of just framing, just catching the ball, just really how to move your body so that you're actually just catching the baseball. As you move up into levels, you're now talking about actually framing, trying to get strikes out of it, how to block, how to throw runners out at certain bases. So, Coach Trenton, if you can give us that answer, I think that would help us a lot. And what is the age that you're looking for?
I know one thing that we always like to do is we always start off with a progression, whether we're working with infielders or outfielders or hitters, and especially catchers. We try to lead into practice with a progression. So our catchers will have like their daily vitamins. So every single day they're going to get the mini wiffle balls out, and they're going to work on mini wiffle ball bare hand receiving. Then they're going to work on baseball receiving, where they're tossing balls back and forth, but they're still working with the bare hand, getting their body and their arm used to the correct positioning. We always do a bounce drill with the catchers. So to work from the ground up, our catchers will be down on a knee, and we'll actually short hop them the ball, and they'll work underneath the ball, trying to get that low pitch to become a strike. Because you see a lot of kids at the younger ages, that ball kind of controls their glove. So it's really strengthening their wrist and getting them to the spot where they can work underneath the baseball and frame a lower pitch. Like Duke said, teaching them the correct position for blocking. I think that's a challenge, because a lot of kids love to pick it. They love to just pick it or kind of get out of the way. So showing them the proper blocking technique, and then transitioning from there. Taking some wiffle balls or some smush balls and bouncing it at them, getting them used to blocking a ball for the first time. And I think you're going to start to see their instincts take over, to where in a game, if the ball's going to short hop home plate, they have the ability to block it. But I think if you take a look at our catching course, we have Brandon Martorano. He is a catcher with the San Francisco Giants. He runs all of our catching programs here. He helped us create the Dominate the Diamond catching course. We do a free trial for our membership, so you get our membership for 7 days for free, and you'll have access to all of it. And there's a lot of really good content in there. A lot of stuff that Duke and I don't even necessarily know, because we were both infielders. I pitched a little bit. Both talk a lot about hitting, so we made sure we got the best of the best to really hone in on all the catching skill development.
So the next question is drills for using your hips when swinging. Coach Donnie's asking that. So, we like to use the PVC pipe. We love to use the connection ball. We use it all the time. So I'm going to show you a real simple drill, just using the PVC pipe. So what you can do is you can take the PVC pipe, put it over your shoulders, and you're in your hitting stance. You can put the tee down, put a wiffle ball on there, and what you actually do is you actually get the hitter to turn their hips, and with the PVC pipe, they knock the ball off of the tee, and they're getting ready, they're getting set, and they're turning their hips. So this is a really good way. Another good way is to actually open them up in a 45-degree angle. Have them really turn their hips this way, so you're really over-exaggerating the turn, 45 degrees, and they're doing the same exact thing. They're turning their hips to hit the ball. You don't want them to do this with their upper body. The PVC pipe should never be straight, kind of like straight across. It should be in this position where the tee is. So I'm down, I'm really getting into my hip, I'm loading it up, and I'm turning, I'm firing, I'm knocking the ball off the tee. That's a really good one. To help with that, we also use the connection ball. We can use the connection ball, putting it near our right bicep. We hold the bat like this, and we're actually using our body to turn the ball, the bat, to the ball. So we're really using our lower half to get to the ball. So, those are some simple ways of, it doesn't have to be a PVC pipe. You can use a broomstick, you can use their bat, you can pretty much use any stick that you want, but it gets their body to feel what posture's like and how to use their lower half to bring their top half to the ball. So hopefully those are some drills that can help. Do you have any?
Yeah, that's a good one, because I think it ties into the next question from Coach Peter. I think anytime we're talking about explosiveness, whether it's a hitter or a pitcher, it's getting the kids to understand how to use their body properly. Yeah. And, I'm a big fan of any explosive type exercise. So it might just be using a light medicine ball and working on medicine ball slams to their left, to their right, you know, reach up and slam through the ground. I have an 8-year-old hitter who, he's a really good hitter and he's got a great swing, but it almost looks like sometimes when he gets the contact, like that ball's controlling his bat. And he doesn't necessarily trust the fact that he can be explosive through the ball. And, you know, I was telling him the other day, I'd rather you swing and miss and go full speed. You know, it's only strike one, as opposed to, well, I'm going to try to swing 50% and make contact. Well, you're going to be out if you do that. So, you know, no strikes, one strike. We want to be aggressive through it. Like Duke was saying, using the PVC pipe, using the connection ball to teach the body how to move properly. I think it ties right into, you know, at-home drills for Coach Peter. He was asking at-home drills for pitchers to gain explosiveness. Well, we had my brother Mike on here 2 weeks ago, and he was talking a lot about balancing correctly and making sure that there's a good foundation there. So making sure that when we get to our set position and we go through our leg lift, that we're in a balanced and strong position. I think a lot of kids have the tendency of kind of crashing forward. I'll demonstrate it here briefly. But, you know, pitcher gets up to his leg lift position, and they have the tendency of kind of sliding forward. We see it all the time with hitters too. So, you know, explosive drills, you can even start off with just balance drills and making sure that, you know, once that pitcher comes to his set position, he can get here, he can work back down, he can work back up, work back down, and then forward. I think that's a great one, but I'm also a huge fan of just teaching overall explosiveness, right? That player might just need help, you know, firing a med ball into the wall, getting stronger, getting his core stronger, stuff like that. I think those are all good to at least start with, and making sure that there's a good foundation of body strength and balance and, you know, stability in their core to be able to fire.
That's good. That's real good, Coach Steve. So we had a question from Coach Jay. Good drills to avoid the hitter bailing out at the plate. You know, I think there's another question down right below that, actually. We're moving from 8U coach pitch to 9U kid pitch, and my son's now terrified of getting hit with the ball after playing in a 10U tournament this weekend, and he got whacked by the ball. He's our best hitter, and now, you know, how do we get him over that mental hurdle? So I think
we got that the other day in the coaches clinic, actually, and there was a couple coaches asking that exact same question about, you know, my son is so afraid to get hit. And so much of it is the mental game. And Coach, I'm sure when you talk about bailing out, you know, they're stepping out, they're just trying to avoid getting hit by the pitch. So I think, one, it's important to teach your player how to get hit properly. And the way we always do that is the kid will get to their stance, and we'll kind of take them through the ABCs of how to get hit. Step one would be to make sure we drop our barrel, we're going to tuck our chin, and we're going to turn in. So now if we get hit by the pitch, we're getting hit in the back of the leg, we're getting hit in the butt, in our back. We're not going to open up and bail out and potentially get hit in the front of our body, in the face. You know, those are spots that it's going to hurt for a long time. You know, when you get hit by a pitch and it's part of the game, it's going to sting for 30 seconds. So teaching them, one, how to get hit properly. Two, I would add in, whether they're smush balls or the Incrediballs, the T-balls, and, you know, while you're doing front toss, hit your son a few times. Take the smush ball, take the Incrediball, and show them that they do have enough time to get out of the way. Because I think kids get in there, they bail out, they do this first, and then the swing, they try to manipulate their swing to make contact. Instead of saying, all right, we're going to do 3 in a row, we're going to take full swings, and then maybe on that 4th pitch, try to hit him in the butt with one. He gets loaded, boom, and then gets hit right here. And they start to build that confidence of, man, I can get out of the way in time. I do have enough time to avoid getting hit by the pitch. And, you know, a lot of it's the mental part. How many times are we going to get hit throughout the season? I don't know, maybe you're going to get 100 at-bats and you might get hit twice. So we don't want to waste the other 98 at-bats worrying about those 2 times that we're going to get hit. And it's a good question, because even last week we talked about, you know, the coaches and the parents' reaction to it. And I think sometimes a kid gets hit by the ball, and I know you saw it with your youngest son. Duke was at a game where, you know, his son got hit and all the coaches stormed on the field and they were making sure that he was okay. And I think that situation makes it seem more serious than it is, right? All the coaches, and I'll let you kind of tell the story about how, you know, all the coaches freaked out and it made Tyler more scared.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, and they do that with all the kids. It's like, yeah, they're 8 or 9, but when they get hit, you want to just stay away and say, hustle down, let them run down to first and at first base, then the coach can check him out. If he got hit in the elbow, and that's where Tyler got hit right here, and it's like he got whacked by the ball and the coaches came running out, and it was almost like, what, is this supposed to hurt more than it really does? And then all of a sudden it's like, then the parents come out and it's like, is he okay? Take him out, put a pinch runner in? I'm like, no, like, he's fine. Like, let him run down and check him out and, you know, that sort of thing. But a lot of times the way we react to them is what they think their reaction should be. So if they get hit by the ball, hey, hustle down, let's go. They take a jog down and they forgot they already got hit. And it's like, well, I'm okay, you know. So I think that is really important. And, you know, the drill that I was going to show, but Coach Steve pretty much explained it really well, and that is he's standing, you know, the guys are standing here. All of a sudden you're taking two really good swings, they're whacking the balls, and then all of a sudden you take one and you throw it at them and they get hit by the ball. And you're working on that. But another thing that can really help your players from bailing out, we have something called the Miller mat. If you want to take a look at this, we saw this and we really liked it. And I use it with a bunch of our players. So it's got a line. You take your front foot and you put it inside these little straps, and then you put your right foot on one of the spiders. There's all different spiders on here so the kids know where their feet go, and it kind of like locks down their front foot. So when they're swinging, they're staying in a good position. They're still able to hit full speed. They're able to swing, and it kind of locks them down. Now, when you're doing this, I wouldn't throw live overhand. I wouldn't, because if they're scared, this is not, if they're afraid to get hit, doing something like this is not the solution. I'm answering the first question of what do I do when if my hitter's bailing out a little bit, meaning his front foot's coming out. If it's because he's scared of the ball, that's a different story. If it's just a hitting flaw that he just is kind of bailing out a little bit, then this is perfect for that. I have a lot of hitters that overstride and they get real aggressive with their step, and we kind of use this to anchor down, and it's awesome. So again, if he's just bailing out because of the swing flaw then it works great. If it's because he's afraid of the ball and getting hit, that's not the drill you want to use. You'd want to make sure that you're teaching him how to get out of the way properly, how to be in a good athletic position, so on and so forth. So coaches, I hope that helps you out, you know, with that, but we get asked that all the time, and that's a great question.
Yeah. We got another really good one here. Coach Sanjeevan, how do we develop mental training sessions for our players? I think that's really good. I think so much of this game is mental, and we do it in probably all of our lessons. We don't necessarily separate the two, but we do some team building exercises. We actually have a night every year. We call it you know, our Red Hawk kickoff party for our travel teams that play out of zone. And what we do is, you know, we have all the kids come in and we set up fun stations, team building activities, you know, things that seem almost impossible. You know, we'll do like the trust fall. We'll do, you know, certain little obstacle courses. We do a blindfold obstacle course where the kids are challenged and, you know, they start to deal with failure a little bit. They start to, you know, work together. Leaders are born because you start to see the kids that are really quiet on the team versus some of the leaders on the team. So we always try to incorporate that into, you know, our preseason activity, and the kids love it. You know, we don't even focus on baseball or softball that night. It's strictly what kind of team building, what kind of mental challenges can we give these players to, you know, see if they can handle adversity, see if they can handle failure. And then the next step I would say is, you know, every time we're working with kids, we're talking about approach. We're talking about dealing with adversity. We're talking about how to handle a slump, because those are all real things. And I think most times when you see, you know, a kid going through struggles, you know, I would say 99% of the time it's not even physical. It's more mental than anything. It's you know, what pitch am I looking for in this count? Or I just walked a batter on 4 straight pitches. How do I flush it and move on to the next batter? You know, those are a lot of the struggles that players go through. And you know, I referenced this before, but we had a Yankee hitting coach or Yankee strength and conditioning coach come in a couple years ago for a coach's clinic, and he said, "Are you focused on the 7 or are you focused on the 3?" And what he meant by that is, are you focused on the 7 times that you get out, or are you going to focus on the 3 times that you actually get a hit? And that's so important, especially in baseball and softball, where you're going to fail so much. There's going to be times you look stupid at the plate, you swing and miss by 2 feet, you might walk in the game-winning run. We're going to fail. And it's teaching our players that, you know, that's part of the game. That's part of, you know, growing up and maturing and how to handle adversity and, battle through some tough times. But I think the mental side of the game is huge. And we try to incorporate it into every lesson, into every team practice. We always say that practice is our time as coaches, and then the game time is the players' time to go have fun. So when we're at practice, let's put some pressure on our guys. Let's put them in real game-like situations where, we do first and third defense. We do bunt plays. We put pressure on them and try to cause as much chaos as possible because we all see that. It happens all weekend long. Coaches will try to steal second, steal third, bunt in a run. They do crazy things out there to win games. And, teaching your players how to fail in practice, I think, is really important for them succeeding once the first pitch is thrown in the game.
Nice. And that leads us right into Gyro. Gyro Smiths. Hello, I coach travel, 10U travel baseball. How do I get kids not to be scared of the fastball? Well, I think that goes hand in hand what Coach Steve was just talking about. You can get closer and you can actually throw harder. You can put the machine on and crank it up a little bit and build their confidence so that when they see a fast fastball or a fast pitcher, it's like, hey guys, remember last weekend we had that machine cranked up pretty good, or coach was really close and I was throwing the ball pretty hard and you guys were hitting it. So you guys are really going to do good against this guy. And all of a sudden, their confidence level is going to be like, oh yeah, that's right. We did hit off that machine and hit it fast. And Coach Steve was throwing really hard to us. Well, this 10-year-old kid's not going to blow it by me. And you're kind of preparing them mentally for that fast guy. So you have to give them, they have to be prepared, but they also need to get the experience of it. If you're just doing nothing but front toss, nothing against front toss, but if that's all you're doing and now all of a sudden there's a 10U guy on there that they think is throwing smoke, it's like their brain's going, oh, we ever hit a soft toss, and now this kid's throwing hard, opposed to, hey, I know you can't throw hard all the time, but if you get a little bit closer and you make a mental note to them, yeah, but maybe we do front toss, but I'm only 10 feet away. That's equivalent to like 60 miles an hour. When you're hitting off this guy and he's only throwing 52. Oh, yeah, okay. Now they get up to the batter's box with a little bit more confidence than they had before that. That's what we're trying to do. So I think that's a really good way of getting the kids to not be afraid of the fastball, is to put them in as many situations where the balls are being thrown hard to get them ready.
Yeah, that's great stuff. We got another good one from Coach Chris from Danbury, Connecticut. 11U and 12U travel in-house. I heard a lot of talk recently about the concept of coaching confidence. I feel like we've been doing a decent job at it, but wondering if you had any tips. That's really good stuff. And, one thing we always try to do is pump our players with confidence. And, there's a difference between being cocky and being arrogant and then being confident. But I can honestly say I've never played with a good hitter or a good player that doesn't believe in themselves. Whether they're in the batter's box or they're on the pitcher's mound or they're out on defense, they want the ball in that situation. And, we have to teach our players to want it and to believe in themselves and trust in their preparation and all the hard work that they do leading up to until opening day. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but one of my favorite clips from last season, Andrew McCutcheon was mic'd up, and I've talked about this on recent shows, and he was struggling. I think he was hitting 180 for the season. He wasn't having a great year, and he ended up hitting a homer in like the fourth inning, and he had the microphone on him. As he's rounding second base, he's talking to himself, and he's saying, I told you were the best. I told you were the man. And he's pumping himself up, and he got so much criticism after the game for talking like that when he was really struggling throughout the season. So I guess in the interview after the game, they said, you're getting criticized based on what you were telling yourself. And he said, if I'm not going to believe in me, then who else will? He goes, because you guys are all going to doubt me before I'll ever doubt myself. And it was just the importance of positive self-talk and having that player, whether they're 10U or they're in the major leagues, be confident. Have a routine. Get in the batter's box. Go through, whatever your routine is. I see players, they get in, they stare at their barrel. They take a big, deep breath, and it's kind of their way of just flushing out everything else. Flushing out their parents, flushing out their coaches, flushing out the batting order, whatever position they're playing on the field, and it's you against the pitcher on the mound. And it's the same thing, if you're on the mound and you might be struggling, it's having that little flush it, stepping off the rubber, taking a big, deep breath, whatever you've got to tell yourself to lock back in before the next pitch. But I think all of us struggled with it at times. There were times, and this is a true story, 2014, I was playing in the minor leagues, and I made 3 errors all season. It was the best defensive year of my life. I played shortstop. I couldn't make it. I was so confident that I was going to make every single play. I wanted the ball hit to me. Fast forward to the championship series. It's game 1 of the championship series. I made an error in the first inning. Didn't really think it got to me much, whatever. Made an error, we're all gonna make errors. Next ball's hit to me, I make another one. 2 innings later, I had 3 errors in the first 3 innings of the game, and instantly my mind went to, oh, I can't play shortstop anymore. I can't field a ground ball, and so I went from 3 errors throughout, 90 games to 3 errors in 3 innings, and it was all right here. It was all in my head. I wanted to take ground balls the next day. I wanted to relearn how to play shortstop. I was freaking myself out for no reason. And I was just, just paranoid to have the ball hit to me just because, I made a couple errors. And that was me being 24 years old. I can't imagine, a 12U kid making an error at shortstop with his parents screaming at him from the sidelines. That's tough and that's challenging. So, when you talk about building confidence, it's not being that coach or parent from the sideline that's yelling. It's talking to them in between innings, putting your arm around them, saying, hey, we're going to make errors. We're going to strike out. We're going to chase changeups in the dirt. That's all part of it. So we have to do a good job as leaders at letting them know it's going to happen, and then also how to handle those situations when they happen, because they're going to. Their bases are going to be loaded and your pitcher's going to walk in the game-winning run. That's baseball. It stinks, and none of us wanted it to happen, especially the pitcher on the mound. So getting them to trust their ability and, coaching it up a ton before those situations, I think, is important.
I mean, how many times have you been to a game, and this drives me crazy, and the hitter's up and he takes strike 1, and the coach, he looks down at the third base coach's box, and the coach is like this. He's already, and you look at the poor hitter, and the poor hitter's like what? It's only strike 1, So a lot of it does, like Coach Steve said, it does start with us as coaches. Are we pumping them up with confidence and energy, or are we sucking it out of them? When a kid takes strike 1 and you go like this with your hands, that's sucking the energy out of them. That's making them less confident that coach doesn't believe in me, or, oh my, it's only 1 strike. We get 3 strikes. Instead, it's, attaboy, let's go. You got 2 more. Let's go, barrel this up. Now that's going in their head. Now they get up and it's a totally different mindset than you going like this, or you kicking dirt, or you going, it was right down the middle. And the kid's like, all right, well, so I think it starts with us as coaches to really help teach these young ball players, these young kids, how to be confident in themselves, and how we can, kind of help pump them up as well, because then you'll see the rest of your players and their teammates doing the same thing. That's all right, Johnny, you got this one. Come on, you got it. And now there's a lot of energy and a lot of confidence on the team. So I think that is a great question about confidence. So we got Louis Lopez. What can we do as coaches to get the kids a little bit more energized or hyped before a game, especially when they're a bit intimidated?
That's a good one. And I think it all comes down to, your whole pregame routine. Making sure that we as coaches are energized, that we have fire when we get there. I always say our warm-up, from the time we step on the field is going to dictate how we play. So our shirts are tucked in, we're going to look the part, we're going to go through a good dynamic warm-up, we're going to go through a good throwing program, we're going to have our pick progressions, our catchers are going to be doing their receiving and their blocking drills, our hitters are going to head down to the cage and hit. Keeping the kids moving, keeping them, doing something before the game is really important. Because how often you get to the field, it's like, all right, go play catch, let's go hit in the cage, and now we're sitting around for 20 minutes waiting for the game to start. But keeping those kids moving, especially at a younger age, is going to keep them energized. And then one thing that I did this summer I thought was kind of fun, I would do my little pregame speech, nothing crazy, few seconds or minutes talking about, our plan for the day, what team we're going to face, and I would always call on somebody new, like, all right, what are your words of wisdom for today? And sometimes it was the quiet kid on the team, and he would come up with the funniest thing ever. Sometimes it was, our starting catcher who he always has fire. He would always say something funny. And I remember, I'm not going to repeat it, but one of our quiet kids said something hilarious. And then for the rest of the season, we went to him, and he always had the pregame pump-up speech. And it was comical, because you weren't expecting this kid to say it before the game. And then all the kids got fired up and juiced up over it. So, every team's different, but it's finding those things that make them tick. But I think it starts with, when you get to the field, what's our routine? Having a different player lead the stretch every day, making sure the kids are moving, having props, smush balls, baseballs, Incrediballs, wiffle balls, making sure those kids know, all right, we're getting there an hour early. Well, we have 50 minutes of things that we're going to do to make sure our bodies are loose, make sure we're mentally prepared. Then we'll spend 10 minutes, we'll time up the other pitcher, we'll get a drink, and we'll get ready for first pitch.
I remember 2 years ago, Coach Steve and I were coaching together, and we were in a perfect game tournament and made it to the semifinals. Our team's doing good, and we were playing this awesome team from Connecticut. And it was like before we even played the game, it was like the parents were talking about how good they were. They were talking about their game changer stats, their records, how big the kids were. It was almost like Coach Steve and I looked at each other like, should we just not even play? Are we going to lose? Or you guys are talking about how good they are. How about how good we are? We went out there and kicked their tail that game. And the moral of the story is after the game was over, we sat down and we're like, okay, guys, what did this just teach us? If we play our game and do what we're supposed to do, we're going to win. Instead of, don't worry about what the other team is or what they're like, or you guys were so psyched out. I'm surprised we won. We just did our thing and, we played well, but, because we're getting a couple questions like that. Like, what do you do when the other team's better than you? Like, how do we play? How do we get the kids pumped up when we know that team's better than us? I think that's an awesome question. I think it's a fun question. I think that you stick to everything that you do as far as keeping the kids pumped up, getting them energized, having that awesome routine that when you go out there, you're hitting your ground balls, everything looks crisp, everything looks good. And, at the end of the day, one team's going to win and one team's going to lose. But it's like, what are you going to learn from that team if they beat you? What did they do better? What are they doing? And write those notes down and be like, hey, guys, look, they only misplayed one ball. Or maybe they're really, really aggressive and you're writing that down like, hey, we need to be more aggressive. What can we learn from that loss? What can we learn from that other team so that we're more prepared next time, not just walking out on the field going, man, we can't win this game. Because the kids can feel that. Like Coach Steve said before, if you want to have a pumped up, hyped up team, well, you better be pumped up and hyped up yourself because they're going to feed off the energy of you. If you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what we're going to do. This team's going to, well, the kids are going to do the same thing. I know you were in a lot of those games last year with some really good teams and played really well.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're playing against kids of your own age. They're 12 years old or 16-year-old in our case. They still wake up, they put their shoes on the same way, they go to the field. They might have maybe more depth, but they're not going to beat us, in energy. They're not going to beat us in effort. They're not going to have a better attitude than us. And I think a lot of times you show up and you play really hard, and sometimes those really good teams tend to take teams lightly, and they just assume that they're going to show up and win. So I think a lot of times you can beat other teams with heart and energy and showing up and just having the will to win and compete. And at the end of the day, I'd rather lose and say we left it all out there than lose and say, our guys showed up and assumed that we were going to lose. That we were beat before the pitch even got thrown. So I think all those things, especially what Duke just touched on right there, really, really important to get the kids energized and pumped up before the game.
There's a question there from Coach Albano. Do you coach different or do things differently, but maybe the other team is significantly better than yours? I mean, some of the things that you could do, depending if it's a rec game, if it's a travel game, maybe you get in some pitchers that don't usually pitch all that much, and you want to maybe this is a good time to get some extra kids in, put them in different positions, those sort of things can be a good way to utilize, maybe we're down 6-0, 7-0, and let's change things up. Let's change things up a little bit. Let's, play Johnny. He always wanted to play first. He's been working hard at it. Let's give him an inning or two there, or let's let Mikey pitch to a couple batters and see how it goes, or you use that time to be productive still, and utilize it that way. You might be pleasantly surprised with some of the results when you make some of those changes. And like, dang, he did really good, or whoa, he pitched really well, or he shut that team down, or so good things can happen. So in that situation, it's make the most of it and maybe work in some extra guys.
Joey Bass has a good one. What mental approach do you teach hitters at the 8 and 9U level? I always teach my guys to be ready to hit early in the count. So, no strikes or one strike, that's our count to try to do some damage. And I don't mean swing for the fences or try to hit home runs, but I mean we want to be on time. We want to be on time with a fastball, and we want to try to hit the ball hard in the middle of the field. I think most pitchers, especially at the younger ages, love to live on the outer half of the plate. They love to throw strike one down and away. outside to a righty, outside to a lefty. So I always tell my hitters, we're going to look fastball in the outer half of the plate early in the count, and we're going to try to drive it through the center field fence and through the right field fence. Lefties, it would obviously be the opposite. Now, when we get to 2 strikes, our approach is I'm going to be the toughest possible out there is. That means I'm going to lay off bad pitches. I'm going to fight pitches off. I'm going to battle. Do whatever I can to extend it one more pitch. And our team motto, actually, halfway through the season last year, we went through a little slump where we were striking out a lot. Went from, instead of, protect, it was one more pitch. See one more pitch right here. And our guys started to have really good at bats. And, you got a batter up there. They've got 2 strikes. They foul off 3. They foul off 4. Fouling off a bunch of pitches. They're seeing 10, 12, 15 pitches in at bat just because of their willingness to go one more pitch. And I think that's so important in keeping those kids, our dugout was fired up, and every time there was a foul ball, they were getting even more jacked up, and they were just really making that pitcher work. And before you know it, 12, 13 pitches in, that pitcher's going to have to throw another fastball, and hopefully you're on time with it and you're going to hit it hard. But again, I referenced my 8U lesson earlier in the show about, him just trying to make contact. That's not really going to do us any good. Maybe until we get to 2 strikes, but no strikes, 1 strike, that's our count to do damage. 2 strikes, we have to, respect the pitcher and say, whatever I got to do to make this kid really work to get me out right here, I'm just going to keep fighting and battling.
Awesome. There's a good question about 12U. This is Coach Bassnett. How do you prepare young 12U catchers to be able to face every ball instead of dodging it? So you have a 12U catcher. How do you get him to kind of square up to the ball? So I'm going to show you a cool drill. I'm going to have Coach Steve toss some balls to me. We've been doing this for a long time. We've been doing, all kinds of funny stuff, especially with the little guys. Taking balls, throwing them up, having them hit the ball on the top of their head to make sure they're getting underneath the ball, rolling balls, having them kind of move around and let the ball go between their legs to make sure that they're getting in front of the ball. So what we're going to do here is Coach Steve's going to toss some balls to me. I'm going to take and put on my face mask. So I'm going to pretend I'm the catcher. And he's going to toss these smush balls. And watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the ball hit me right in the face, because you're saying, how do I get squared up to the ball? So watch this. Coach Steve's got the ball.
This might be fun.
I'm going to pretend I'm ready to go here. And all I'm going to do is, instead of using my glove, I'm actually going to let it hit me in the face. So if it's over here, I want to move that way. If it's over here a little bit, watch this one. So I'm keeping my glove.
I'm going to try to get it right in between the shield.
So you see what I'm doing? I'm not using my glove this way. I'm kind of moving because my head is making me move my body. So, using this is a really good way to get your players to kind of square up the ball. And the interesting thing was, we always talk about how, this stuff is so fun for all ages, not just little kids. You see big leaguers doing pick drills. And just yesterday, I think it was Tatis, was actually working on catching balls, and he had something on just like this, and the balls were like hitting him as he was trying to like get behind the ball. And I was like, we do that with our 6-year-olds. We do that with all these different drills. Like, whether you're 6 or you're in the big leagues, doing stuff like this is so fun. And it's almost like, well, that's only for little kids. Well, no, you got to keep the game fun for big leaguers too. And just hitting nothing with ground balls all the time, is fielding a ground ball, but get them to get behind the ball. So, Coach, hopefully that one helped you out. I'm going to go put my hat back on and get rid of this thing, but Coach Steve can answer the next question.
Coach Tony, good one. Coaches, what drills do you like to utilize for increasing a player's speed? I coach 13U and have players that are, in between 5 feet and 6 feet tall. They vary greatly in speed. Coach, 13U is a challenging age for that exact reason. Moving up to the big field, for maybe you 12U coaches out there that haven't been on the big field yet, the game changes significantly in that, the bases are now 90 feet. The pitcher's mound's now 60 feet. A throw from home plate to second base is 127 feet. The game is a lot slower. So, the biggest thing I see is it feels like the kid takes 10 seconds to get down the first baseline on a routine ground ball. So, great question, and completely understand your pain. In terms of speed, we always will do explosive type exercises in our practices and our workouts. One of the best players I've ever played with, loved jump rope. And he would get on a jump rope and he'd do 500 jump ropes a day just to work on his, his fast twitch and his explosiveness. I mentioned before, the med ball slams, but anything you can do to challenge these guys to work really quick. We do hand-eye stuff. A lot of times it's just kids growing into their body at 13. You see a lot of those kids that are maybe undersized, but they're really fast. And then you get the kid that shoots up really tall and he can't really get out of his own way because he's still, growing into his body. He's all arms and legs running down the line. But I think any kind of speed work in terms of speed ladder, jump rope, hurdles, any kind of agilities you can do at practice, maybe add them into your warm-up. I think that might help. But it's something that we try to do weekly with our guys.
Yeah. Nice. Coach Jim says, what are some good drills to do with the Cam Wood bat? I mean, we pretty much do everything that you would use with a regular bat, we use with the Cam Wood bat. So we work off the tee. We'll do front toss with it. We'll hit batting practice with it. Sometimes I'll even I'll hit with it backwards. Nah, I'm just kidding. Because with the weight being right here, it actually keeps our hands inside the ball and it really gets us good whip. So we really like these. We have all different sizes for baseball and softball. We think the Cam Wood bats work really well. So,
Coach Becky, here in Georgia, going from 7U to 9U with leadoff, stealing, drop third strikes. There's a lot to teach our players. What are some good drills, especially for our catchers on throwdowns to second and third? Also pickoff drills for our pitcher. That's good because we go through the same thing. Once we transition from 9U, 10U up to 11U, we go to 50, 70, and now it's real baseball. There's leadoffs, there's steals, there's pickoffs, there's catchers throwing runners out. So what we try to do is in every practice we'll add in, obviously an infield outfield where we're calling out different situations. We'll do situational defense, but we also always try to finish with some sort of a scrimmage, whether it's a coach pitch scrimmage or it's a player pitch scrimmage, to where the players are actually going through it game speed. I love setting up scenarios where there's a batter in the box, the pitcher's on the mound, he's throwing, the runner on first. I tell him, just try to cause chaos. You can go early break, you can go one-way lead, you can steal second, you can do a delay steal, but try to create those situations in practice to get your catcher used to reading the runner, get your first baseman used to calling out runner or step off, get your pitcher used to a runner on first taking a crazy big lead or maybe breaking early and not balking. Try to create those stations in practice and create those situations so that when they do happen in the game, the defense still knows that we have the ball and we control it. We're not going to let the base runners, cause chaos and cause us to freak out. But I think those game speed drills are really good. Other things I'll do is I'll get a stopwatch out and I'll time our fastest runner from a steal break to second, and we'll see, we'll time our catchers to see if they can get the ball down to second base in time. We'll also do a stopwatch with our pitchers. How quick from the time they start until they get the ball to home plate, because all those little seconds matter throughout the game, and fractions of a second matter. So getting them on a stopwatch if you're indoors, just to simulate those situations. But once you get outside, try to do as many live situations as you can with base runners, with pitchers, catchers, everything to create those situations before they actually happen.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Coach Jess has an interesting question. What age do you make your kids work off their mistakes? A missed ground ball or a missed pop-up, making them run, or another exercise? Coaching 12U softball in Arkansas. Well, Coach Jess, I think that there's going to be times where they make physical mistakes or they're making mental mistakes, right? If you're making a mental mistake of throwing it to the wrong base or not knowing how many outs there are, that's a totally different mistake than, a ball, them not getting down early enough and then missing a ball, or, the last thing that you want to do as a coach is get them scared to make a mistake. Well, every time I make a mistake, we're going to run or do push-ups or do whatever. You want them to be able to play free and make plays and try things and not be afraid of failing, diving for a ball, or maybe they're throwing the ball on the run opposed to just fielding it, shuffling and throwing, and the runner's safe. Instead, they're going through one-handed and they're working the ball on the run. Like, you want them to play free and fast. Well, maybe what you can do is you can tally on a little note card when they're, the number of mistakes that they might make, and at the end, do something. But it wouldn't be, as soon as an error or something's made, you're immediately yelling it out like, drop and give me 6 push-ups, or something like that. I just think that physical mistakes are gonna happen. The mental mistakes you have to address right away. If somebody makes a mistake, there's 2 outs and they thought there was 1 out and they threw it to the wrong base, hit stop, and it's like, hey, how many outs are there? Let's make sure we're paying attention. Let's make sure that we're getting into our prep step. We're prepared. Our teammates are communicating together. So I'm not a big believer of if somebody makes a mistake, dropping and giving 10 push-ups or whatever. But I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
No, that's all really good stuff right there from Duke. One thing we always try to do at practice is because we want to create those pressure situations. So we'll play 21 outs, or we'll play, if your team plays 6 innings, we'll play 18 outs. And all that is the defense is out on the field. There's a coach standing at home plate with a fungo, and we call out a play. Nobody on, nobody out. They'll hit a ground ball to the third baseman. He'll fire across the first. Ground ball to shortstop. He'll fire across the first. But what we do is every third play is a double play. So outs 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 are all double plays. Every time we make an error, we go back to 0. So what you'll see is as you get closer and closer to the end of the game, there's more and more pressure. And you can incorporate the outfielders, you can do fly balls, you can call out a cuts and relay. If they run it correctly, it counts as an out. But 18 outs, 21 outs, those are really fun games to get the kids focused and also put some pressure on them. Once you fail, you go back to 0. And sometimes it's going to take forever because you're going to have 1 or 2 kids that really do struggle to make plays defensively. But I think what you'll see, and one thing we try to teach our guys is, if I'm playing second base and Coach Duke's playing shortstop and he makes an error, it's my job to look at Coach Duke and say, Coach Duke, you got this next one. So what? Flush it, move on. We do not want to see kids, come on, Duke, we were at out 17. How'd you miss that ball right there? We've got to teach each other, or teach all the players to pick each other up. Because they're already feeling enough pressure as it is. I think it's a good question. I think a lot of teams like to do it, but we genuinely or generally don't like to punish physical mistakes. But the mental ones, not knowing the signs, not knowing what plays put on defense, like Duke said, not knowing the amount of outs, those are all things that players can control. Sometimes, like I mentioned earlier, you're just going to have a rough day and kick a few balls in the infield, and that's part of baseball and softball.
For the one coach that was asking a lot of the leading and the stealing and the pickoffs or just moving up to the next level, coach, what I would do is I would get our membership or I would get our majors program, because in that there's 115 drills in our majors and over 800 drills in our membership, and you can get the membership for free. And with that, you're getting how to teach leading, how to teach pickoffs, how to incorporate it into practice, how to design a practice plan. It's like all in there, because you asked a couple of questions all in the same, and there's a lot there. How to teach pickoffs. Like, there's a lot when you're going from, we call it 50-70 here in New Jersey. That's when they're 11 years old. But I know in other, out west, it's like once they hit 9 years old, they're already leading and stealing and picking off, and that's a lot for a 9-year-old brain to have to figure out and learn. So in our membership and in our majors course, it comes with everything. And you can take a look at that, go through it all, and I think that'll really help because it breaks it all down for you. So we got one more question?
Yeah, one more question. We'll go with Coach Dominic. How do you incorporate measurements, exit velo, bat speed, pitching velocity, long toss distance, sprint speed, or others into your player development? We're 12U. We track weekly on all of those measurements, but I wish we were seeing more progression. I think that's a really good question, Dominic. We do measure exit velocity and speed and all of those measurables that you referenced before. We'll usually do it at tryouts. We'll do a mid-season evaluation, and then we'll do an end-of-the-year evaluation, getting ready for the next year of tryouts. I think sometimes we really focus so much on the measurables, and the kids that they fall in love with the exit velo. And one thing I always tell those players is there's a lot of guys in the major leagues making millions of dollars a year that could care less what their exit velo is. Sure, it's good because it's going to show your raw strength and your raw ability, but it doesn't mean you can hit. And I have plenty of kids that can hit the ball in the mid to upper 90s, but can't hit a changeup and can't stay back on a curveball and can't hit the ball the other way. So, it is part of the game, and I think, now with all the technology, you're seeing it more and more, and kids fall in love with it. But it's not the end-all, be-all. There's a lot of guys, in the majors that live between 85 and 90 miles an hour that can hit the ball to all fields. That being said, you're going to get more hits when you hit the ball harder. So exit velo is important, and making sure that you hit the ball in the barrel and you're driving it. I think sometimes, you see you're tracking it weekly on all those measurements. Maybe break it up and do it once a month, and then try to add in those those exercises throughout the week to show, all right, we're going to do our med ball slams today. We're going to hit heavy balls, or we're going to hit basketballs, just to work on their explosiveness. In terms of foot speed, I think it's important to add in those agilities, do your ladders, do your sprints, do your jump rope, do your hurdles, all those kinds of things. And I think you'll see a better jump and a better increase maybe, every couple weeks or once a month instead of week to week. Because I have kids come in and, we'll use the hit tracks and they'll max out at 91 miles an hour one week, and then, if they don't hit 91 the next week, it's a failure. Well, no, it's not, because if we look at maybe your average velocity throughout the course of the session went up, or your line drive percentage went up, or we look at your spray chart afterwards and you hit balls all over the place and you were hitting line drives in the gaps, because there's a lot of kids that they can sell out, testing their exit velo, and they can do a leg kick and swing as hard as they can, and well, great, you hit 191, but then you rolled over 3 in a row, you swung and missed, and you popped up. So you hit 91 or you hit 92, you got a new personal record, but the overall session wasn't really a success. So I do like measuring all those measurables and seeing where kids are at and where they're progressing, but making sure that the work you're doing in between is building them up to where you're going to start to see jumps. I think from week to week it might be tough, because I go through it too. I see kids chasing a number but not really having productive batting practice.
And I also think going along with that is, like you said, is, okay, a guy hits 91 one time, but his other 5 swings are 73. Well, what you can track is, instead, maybe it's take 10 swings and average them all out. Show the highest, because that's your potential, but what's your average? You average an 87 and you hit 91, well, that's pretty darn good. Well, are you hitting 91 but you're averaging 73? Well, that means you're not finding the barrel barely at all, and you're a strong kid and you barreled one up and hit it hard. That does not mean you're a good hitter. Or if you're pitching, you throw 80 miles an hour and you threw 2 strikes. Well, maybe the next week you threw 4 strikes and then you threw 8. Maybe your velocity's not going up, but your strike percentage is going up. Like, that's a good thing to be able to track. So look at it that way, because sometimes you'll get a 12-year-old kid that's small, he's not as strong, everyone's throwing 63 and he's still at 51. Well, what's he have to look forward to? A, he never wants to throw, because if all you're going based on his velocity, he doesn't have it, and it's like, well, or you can go, well, you throw 51 now, well, let's see what happens, but what's your strike percentages? How are you, how are your other pitches, blah, blah, blah. How's your percentage, your differential between your fastball and your changeup? There's other things that you got to look at, because, 2 years from now, when he grows that extra 6 inches, now he goes from 51, now he's throwing 61. Where another kid that's already at 61, a guy, when he's throwing 93 in the big leagues, you don't just jump up from 93 to 96 in a couple weeks. Like, you may never gain another mile an hour for a year or so, but there's the other things that you can look at. So
yeah, my last point to that would be, I saw an interview with Jim Thome recently, and the guy asked him doing the interview, what measurable were you looking for the most? Was it exit velocity? Was it bat speed? Was it launch angle? Whatever it was. And Jim Thome said, the only thing I focused on was 3 inches. And the guy kind of looked at him, he's like, what do you mean 3 inches? He's like, 3 inches. I didn't care what my exit velo was. I didn't care the launch angle. 3 inches. He's like, all right, well, what do you mean? And he held up his bat and went like this. He's like, the 3 inches on my barrel. I was trying to just barrel every baseball. That's the only thing I was focused on. And obviously it's coming from a guy that's probably 6'3", 230, that could hit the ball 105 miles an hour. But it's so true, right? You can have the best exit velo in the world, but if you're not hitting the ball consistently on the barrel, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to hit. So I think sometimes, just putting it into perspective like that and teaching the kids that there are so many more things than just the measurables, when it comes to hitting and pitching and, running's, one of those things that you're either fast or you're not. You can work at it, right? And running changes games, but also look at what position you're playing on the field. Because if you're a middle infielder, you better be fast. If you're a center fielder, you've got to be fast. If you're a first baseman that doesn't really move well, but you can hit the crap out of the ball, Well, I'm sure coaches aren't really going to care what your 60 time is if you're, 6'5", 230 and hitting balls 110 miles an hour. So it's all relative to what position they play, what age they play, and what they can do in their game, because everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to do things well, and some kids are going to struggle, at certain things. It's really, really hard to be a 5-tool player and do all of them well.
Yeah. Well, we hope that everybody enjoyed the show. It's time. It's about 11:56 right now. Is next week gonna be the same time, or are we looking to adjust it?
I know we shot a question out before asking about adjusting the time a little bit, because of the 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. Eastern time is difficult for some of you. So we're gonna wait to hear some feedback, and you guys will get an answer from us here shortly as to keeping the same time or maybe changing it, or might do a Q&A later on in the evening one day, just to try to get some more people that might not have the opportunity to watch it right now.
So thanks so much. Zone Sports Academy, Duke Baxter, Steve Nicorak, Dominate the Diamond. We hope you enjoyed it. You can always keep on adding in the comments some questions. We'll make sure we can get to the questions. We'll be shooting out some videos. Hope you enjoyed it. Go out and dominate the day.